more of a
Jennifer.
Can't remember.
Love Hewitt.
Jennifer Jason Lee. Yeah, no.
Jennifer Jason Hewitt.
Love Jason.
Jennifer Hewitt Lawrence.
Lawrence Lee.
That's it. Yeah.
Welcome to Book Club for Movies, every single one of you. It's March 20th. I'm Ryan Miller. And he's gross. It's Matt Amber.
I am really gross. What's your point?
Whoa, okay, stop it. That would just bring it back.
That's not. Everybody makes fun of everything.
This is Book Club for Movies. Every week we watch a movie. We talk about it on Thursday. You can watch it too. You can talk about it too, like we're going to do today. This week, it's Grosse Pointe Blank. It is. We've mentioned it. We've said the first word already.
It said the second word too.
I said all three.
Ha-ha! There we are. Grosse Pointe Blank comes in at an hour and 47 minutes, directed by George Armitage, written by Tom Mankiewicz, DVD Vicentis, Steve Pink, and the star of the movie, John Cusack. Starring John Cusack, as previously mentioned, Minnie Driver, Alan Arkin,
Cusack.
Jeremy Piven, Hank Azaria, and Joan Cusack, indeed.
The Cusack bookends, as it were.
It can't have one without the other. We did get some comments on this one,
yeah.
So let's go ahead and
in true Book Club for Movies form.
Exactly. This is what it's about, people. We love it. We love it.
Thank you.
At Rayzilla, thanks for writing in. Rayzilla's comments. The soundtrack is my life soundtrack. The movie is Grads of 86 and I'm 87. You are very old. I loved this type of music then and now. Cusack plays the perfect loner. Maybe it's just that I'm not as accomplished as I wish to be, and this is the life I should have chosen. 10 years, man! And he specifically calls out that Killing Moon is so hauntingly beautiful. It should have been in The Lost Boys, but it is so right at home here.
Used real well in
Grosse
movie.
Pointe Blank.
Yeah.
And when I said you're old, I meant because you said I'm 87. I realized what I'm saying. Hey, let's talk about the movie Grosse Pointe Blank.
Well, to be clear, you just meant we're old.
Yes, I'm also. I graduated not 10 years after that. Plus, it's fine. It's fine.
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
Doesn't matter.
My
Nobody's too old for Grosse Pointe Blank. It turns out.
What a great cast. And I didn't actually even mention the fact that Dan Aykroyd is the main bad guy in the movie.
Right. It's not even an ensemble cast, I would say. Like, I mean, not that each of these stars kind of hadn't come into their own yet, but it's not, they were just perfectly put into their roles. Like they were made for the roles and the roles were made for them or something. I don't know. I got to tell you, I can't even talk about this thing. It's so good. I can't even... The amount of in I was and how quickly I became in to this thing.
I'm so happy to hear that because I do like this is totally one of those movies that pretty much every level it hits for me, and there are some really, really beautifully perfect moments of clarity for the characters. So there's some just like the humor is spot on. It's really funny.
Amazing. It starts out like it's to give you an idea of the escalation. Movie comes on, going through credits, and credits already. It's like music by Joe Strummer. I'm like, what? Okay, music by Joe Strummer. That's crazy. And then it just keeps going from there. Where the Cusack, who you wouldn't make a hitman in really any movie, I would think. It doesn't seem like it should work. And it doesn't just work here because he's like a Cusack hitman, like he's doing what Cusack does best in a role that you wouldn't expect him. He's just straight up good. Like the way they film it, like he's good at what he does. They show him like tracking that guy on a bike across
with the sniper rifle through the wall before
nails him.
Right.
But then Aykroyd comes out, and then him and Aykroyd have this back and forth where it's just it's amazing. Like you're confused, but not like at the same time you're like. The dynamic that those two bring, combined with what it actually is, or the movie tells you it is like I said, I'm at that point I'm like, holy crap, what is this thing? Like I will never stop watching this movie.
It's so good. Okay, so here's the rundown. Here's the quick plot synopsis. Martin Blank is an assassin who has been given the offer by a rival assassin played by Dan Aykroyd, Grosser, to join a concern, quote unquote, which is essentially it's a union. That's what
he's calling it a union.
He's trying to
join your freaky union.
Aykroyd's trying to unionize assassins because now because ever since the fall of the Soviet Union, the market's been flooded. In the process, we find out that these two have gone back and forth over years and years to not to assassinate each other, but doing the same job and trying to get it done before the other person, and in some cases, actively ruining the job for the other person on purpose.
Right. Getting double booked on stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and Aykroyd in trying to create this union is basically pushing out the scabs, right? Like he's trying to. Yeah. I tell you, the politics of this. That's not it. No, sorry. Please continue.
So, after one of the hits goes awry for John Cusack, he has to make amends and do a free hit. He's given an opportunity to go take care of it, and at the same time, he has been pestered by his
handler.
His handler, yeah, I guess she would be his handler.
Who go between at least, like the clients come to her, and she
right, and she also procures all his weaponry and everything. Right. Played by Joan Cusack, amazingly. She has been pestering him about going back to his high school reunion because she is just very, very amused by the idea that he came from somewhere. And so, without knowing what the hit is, but knowing that the hit is in the general Detroit area, Martin Blank heads back to Grosse Pointe, where he went to high school, to reunite with old friends, old lovers, and all sorts of guns and bullets.
Pretty good. Yeah. I think that covers it pretty well.
Pretty good stuff. And we will, as we always do, we will hit spoilers on this one. They're not real big.
I don't think matter in the least.
This is not a movie where it matters at all. No. Not even a little. But
you can watch it. Just it doesn't matter how much you know. Number one, we can't communicate to you. Like we cannot give you what this movie can give you. No. Number one, with words. But number two, you watch it a million times, and it's I get the feeling, anyways. This is still the first time I've ever seen it. I get the feeling you watch it a million times, and it's still great.
It's still great. I've seen it.
Ask Rayzilla.
It's totally a movie that feels like I've seen a million times, and every time I watch it, I'm always delighted by certain things. And this one was, I had totally forgotten how great Alan Arkin is, and he's only in the movie for maybe 10 minutes in total, and he plays a shrink that
plays his shrink.
That right away, the first thing you kind of hear out of this is, it was 4 sessions before you told me you were a murderer, and then I told you I didn't want to see you anymore. Right. And
I'm not your shrink.
And you keep showing up.
Yeah, I don't even want you to come here. Yeah, that's great.
and he's just he in every scene he's in, he steals it. Like he grabs that scene and he just chews the fat on it, and it's great. It's so funny.
It's Alan Arkin.
It's Alan Arkin.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I love that actually, and kind of bringing that up. I think one of the interesting things that kind of kicks the movie off is what you get an idea of what this theme is going to be and how this movie is going to portray it really fast, because the theme very clearly comes from the fact that Martin doesn't know who he is, and he's a blank. His name is Martin Blank. He is blank. He's even referred to in the scene with Alan Arkin when he's describing his first dream. The dream is that he's the Energizer Bunny, and Alan Arkin tells him, "What? That's a terrible dream. That's a depressing dream.
It's a nightmare.
No soul, no anima. You're doing the same thing over and over again with no purpose." And that right there is, I think, the crux of the movie for Martin. He's resisting going back to his high school reunion because he knows that he's gonna see the girl that he was in love with, that he left, that he walked away from on prom night in her $700 dress.
Didn't even walk away. Didn't show up. Stood her up.
Yeah. And it's about him finding himself, and then on top of that, I think this is also another movie where it is about the concept of forgiveness, not only self-forgiveness, but forgiving the most egregious thing with kind of caveats based on the situation, and I think the movie does a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, no, it creates such a world, such a unique world that's inhabited by characters that are a little off, all of them, even though I would say like the strongest parts of this movie are where they dip into reality, like I don't want to move too quick, but there's the moment where he is actually killing somebody, or the moment where she catches him killing somebody.
Yeah.
Like, just fantastic moments, and we will definitely come back to that. But the love interest, played by Minnie Driver, is one of the all-time great reunions in movie history. Maybe?
Seriously, like and just everything about how she plays that, especially as so one of the things to note is that Grosse Pointe is for all intents and purposes a very small town. Kind of, it seems very clear that most people know each other, and all the high schoolers, they recognize each other. They
middle
know
class, upper middle class, maybe even.
It's it's all right there. And she works at a front window Main Street radio station playing all the hits of the 80s for them.
Right.
And
which is where they grew up. This
right.
movie takes place when it was filmed, or when released, 1990, whatever.
Right. But in that moment where she finally kind of sees him, and she has this, it's not a breakdown. It's her reconciling. She's reconciling everything out loud, exactly as you'd expect any really incredible DJ to do. They like, that's their job, right? Like, and that's why you can hate him. You can say whatever you want about the guy, but Stern, that's why Stern is and was and became who he is, because he just stopped holding things back and started saying what was going on in his head at the time in his life. And she does that. She has this great moment of reconciliation where Martin comes in, they try to have a conversation, he walks out again on her, and then he walks back in, and she's, enough, we're talking, sit down in my booth.
Puts him on the air. Yeah. Which, number one, Howard Stern and Minnie Driver have the same hair. So coincidence? I don't think so.
That's same character.
Number two, when she puts him on the air and they have to have that conversation back and forth, and there's some chair switching. The whole scene is so dynamic, both with what they bring to it, and what they say and what they do. It's, like I said, it's one of the best. And I think that all the movies. And it follows up. They have another sequence before they go to the high school reunion. Where they go to the bar, and at the bar they again have another great back and forth where not only is the dialogue like super sharp, but it comes out. This is one of those Kevin Smith things. Okay. I love Kevin Smith's style of dialogue, but it never, ever has ever sounded natural. Nobody talks the way people talk in Kevin Smith movies. Sure.
This is a movie where the writing is super sharp, and you can hear it from somebody. You could hear the wit. I could hear it. I know people...
Witty without being unrealistic. Because the Kevin Smith stuff, even Tarantino to maybe a lesser extent than...
I think Tarantino also leans on the concept of everything he does. He leans on genre movies and how they were written.
Very true.
Whereas Smith claims that, like Jay, for example, Jay talks like that, and he said snoochie boochies and all this crap. So, okay, I get that, but it's not that. It's like you go back to Mallrats and it's Brody. Nobody talks like Brody. Nobody.
Perfect example. Yeah. So, but here you're right. It's somehow more natural, even though, like I said, most of these interactions, and I had to go and look to see how much of this movie was improv, because some of it comes off in such a strange way. Like their dynamic is so strange, especially between Cusack and Driver, that I did have to look it up. And I did find that apparently they did, Armitage says they did kind of shoot 3 different movies. I might as well just read this, I guess. It says, we shot the script as written. We shot a mildly understated version, and we shot a completely over-the-top version, which usually was what we used. We cast that movie, and I've cast most movies, by having the actors come in and read, then throwing the script out and saying, okay, let's improvise. Cannot stress how much that statement comes across in this movie, but is used perfectly. Right. It's not just something that you're like, that you get lost. Or you do get lost, but in just the best kind of way. In the right way.
Like you, because you buy it. You buy into it. It's one of those movies that I think that the biggest thing that you see in this movie in terms of what was probably the biggest budget, that besides actors, was they blow something up. and in the way that they do it. So what this turns into is as Cusack is looking for, he's going to go home. And he says to one of the teachers that he ran into, that was one of his old teachers, she says, what are you doing back? And he says, I'm going to go home. And she says, are you now? Which, by the way, the way she says that,
Didn't catch. Yeah.
It's this perfect, like, she knows, and I'm not going to be the one to break this to you. Sucks.
Right.
He goes to where the house was, and the house is now a Quickie Mart. You know, it's like it's a quick stop or something like that.
Which he then walks in to the employee and is like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Does he know this guy?" Like, I didn't.
Who are you?
It's just again one of those weird interactions. But then it turns out you're like, "Oh, this used to be his home."
It was his home, and they end up blowing that up at a later point when he gets into this weird gunfight. That is again another hilariously perfect weird thing for the movie, this gunfight that takes place in the middle of a convenience store while the convenience store clerk is got Ace of Spades in his headset cranked up while he's playing an arcade cabinet that I've never seen in my life, and I'm 99% sure was built for the movie.
Could very well have been
a Doom 2 cabinet.
Yeah, Doom 2.
What the hell? So, but I love that. I love the weird Doom 2 cabinet, and I love the gunfight where they're just going back and forth, and then the guy that's trying to kill Cusack puts a potato of plastique or C4 into a microwave and blows the building up.
Yeah.
And
I guess story-wise, we should mention that as he's coming back to make good on the hit that he screwed up in the same town where his reunion is happening, Dan Aykroyd has sent not only government agents, I think NSA agents.
They're NSA
right?
agents, yeah.
Yeah, put
Hank
them on
Azaria.
his tail to get him arrested or taken out or whatever. And it's Hank Azaria and I'm sorry, unknown actor B, but they both do a great job. But the guy that he gets into a fight with in the Quickie Mart is a random assassin
he's an amateur assassin,
right? That's there just to kill him straight up because his name screwed up it.
His name is Philip Lapoubelle. So just
okay, that's good. But yeah, who was sent to straight up kill him for screwing up the other hit, right?
Right.
But yeah, so not only is his childhood home replaced with a Quickie Mart, they blow it up. And while they're blowing it up, did you notice the movie standee that they destroy in the process? Pulp Fiction. Right?
Which also kind of leads into the other section, the other part of that sequence, which is him. He goes to see his mother, who we then get more backstory on, and this again fills out the theme where his mother has gone off the deep end because dad died. You make the grand assumption when he goes to the grave, I did anyways, that dad probably died of alcoholism and probably abused mom and him, which is why he left in the first place.
That does kind of surround it too. Like he did leave. Like that's not actually a question. Like he did leave that city weirdly, and everybody kind of knows it and remembers it. And he's coming to terms. There is some coming to terms with that. That's not just a throwaway, I guess is what I'm saying. No,
totally. And I think that sequence does give, like, you have a whole mess of things involving kind of the literal destruction of your past, because his dad is dead, so he's gone, and he goes to the grave, he dumps out an entire bottle of whiskey. That's okay. He's done with that. Mom, he finds out, is on lithium, doesn't remember who he is, so he finally comes to term with the fact that okay, that's where she is. The house that is now a Quickie Mart has now been ultimately destroyed.
Right.
All right, it's time to pick up the pieces, which then leads to...
Well, not just pick up the pieces. It's this thing of not only life kind of gradually slipping away, but sometimes violently tearing you into the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And because that does ultimately lead to him going to the reunion with Minnie Driver.
Right.
And
who she does accept his invitation to go to the reunion as a date because... he gave her an airplane on her bed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be free.
It's a literal airplane, guys. I'm not euphemizing.
Not a literal airplane. Like
euphemizing? Is that even?
No.
Can I even do that? Is that a thing?
Yeah. You could be a euphemizer.
Okay.
It's like the same thing as being a philosophizer.
Hey, I barely knew her. Please don't fire me.
Oh, that joke has never been old. Michael Scott. Yeah. So you when they get to the reunion, one of the best parts is seeing all of those characters that you've had kind of some pass through. There's been a couple that have been on a phone where there's been
Jeremy Piven pops back
they
up. They talk
right.
about Abraham. It's not his name. The guy who plays Abraham on Walking Dead. They talk about him.
Michael
kind of obliquely.
Cudlitz.
Yes. Who else? I feel like there's
Jenna
I'm missing-
Elfman. Jenna Elfman
Jenna
was in there.
Elfman. There's a security guard that I don't recognize the actor, but plays his part perfectly.
That guy is super funny. The weird security guard guy. Yeah, and so it's another one of those moments where he goes and there is this beautiful, if not a little overly saccharine sequence where he's leaving, or he's going to find Minnie Driver, and a friend that he hadn't seen in forever sees him and says Martin, and she's got her kid with her, and
she's normal. She
is the one person who is like out of everybody that you've met this entire reunion and throughout the movie mostly is just a straight-laced regular person. She's not drunk. Yeah. She's not crazy. She's just a mom.
She's not Jenna Elfman.
And she's not. Yeah, she didn't break her neck and then see flowers and hear music and Mozart, and it was beautiful. She asks him to hold her baby, and they do this really great back and forth camera wise of him looking at the kid and then the kid looking directly at the camera, and it's not so much it's the flash to the kid is great and all, but it's this Cusack gives this look of wonderment and this look of like there's like a switch flips and he realizes like that was the moment for him where he goes, okay, this doesn't maybe have to be everything, and then the situation, and then then it, of course, it escalates to where he has to murder Philip Lapoubelle.
It's maybe the best conversation in the movie, which is saying something, as we've talked about the dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
And in that there's no actual words exchanged between him and the actual infant. But Cusack has this look on his face like, what are you saying to me? Like, what are you trying to say? Like,
right.
And then he eventually gets it, but and then Minnie Driver shows back up and he's holding the baby and they're best friends. But before we move on from the actual reunion, I got to say, the second he walks into that reunion and the music is playing, I forget what song it is, but it's the 80s hits are in full force.
I don't remember what song it was when he played.
Well, but the second he walks in, it hits me like a ton of bricks. The brilliance of putting John Cusack not only in this role because it almost plays against type, but putting him in the freaking role where he's going to a 1980s reunion.
Right.
Literal, this is you think of John Cusack when you go to a 1980s reunion, no matter who you are.
John Cusack was so great in 80s high school movies, Better Off Dead.
He is the 80s.
Yeah, I know. Better Off Dead's still the best, but whatever.
Yeah. But just that was awesome. But also the standout, and I hate being like, this part in the movie was cool, but the standout where Nathaniel, who I think he talks to briefly on the radio, walks up to him and puts his hand on him real quick, and he does a super quick judo, almost breaks his arm, and he's like, hey, what? Great moment.
Also, the song that they walk into the reunion with, I believe, is We Care a Lot, Faith No More.
Okay, that I believe it.
Yeah, one of the other things that he that Cusack does a great job with is the fact that he struggles early on with not only the fact that he wants to go to the reunion, but he doesn't. And part of the reason he doesn't want to go to the reunion is because, and he keeps bringing up, what am I going to say to these people?
Right.
That, you're the head of sales. I killed the president of Paraguay with a fork.
Right.
Right. And then
he doesn't want to go to a high school reunion for the same reason anybody doesn't want to go.
Right. But then throughout, so he has this struggle where he wants to go, but he doesn't want to go. And then what's he going to say? And then he just gives up. And when he gets there, he starts telling everybody immediately. The first thing they're like, what are you doing? I'm a professional killer. Yep. Nobody believes him. So he goes even further to scream it. I am a professional killer. I ditched high school. I joined the army, went into business for myself. I'm a professional killer. And even Jeremy Piven, the only thing he can say is something like, you get dental with that, or
yeah, or the best coming from Minnie Driver's dad, played by, I'm sure you know his name, but you love him and everything.
I don't remember his name, but I know. I know who you're talking about.
It's a growth industry.
It's a growth industry.
It's great. It's a growth industry. So.
which by the way is hilarious because that's also, contrary to everything Grosser is saying, the Dan Aykroyd character. So the awesome sequence where Cusack ends up fighting the assassin that Grosser
Poubel's back.
La Poubelle. Yeah, we're back to La Poubelle at the reunion to the soundtrack, to the tune of Mirror in the Bathroom. Like,
gosh, dang it.
is incredible. And then you have that just hilarious moment where Jeremy Piven comes up. He's been told that he's a killer, and Jeremy Piven's like almost not fazed by it. It's like, okay, what are we doing? We got to wrap this guy up.
Yes, no, fantastic, but we can't skip over, like you've already gone over when Minnie Driver comes up, the thing we already mentioned.
And yes, and okay.
And everything stops. The music stops. Like, let's put it that way. In this movie, where music is so much of everything, she stumbles upon him as he's taking the pen that he used to kill Poubelle out of his neck. She sees him, and the music stops, and she runs out, and all he can say is, "It's not me." Right?
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Is that what he says?
Because he says it all the time. He says in that scene, I think he says, "It's not me. It's not my fault." And
okay.
he says
both. All right, as long as he's okay.
He says it throughout the movie. It's not my fault. Like, and people keep asking him, like, why are you doing this to me? It's not me. It's not. I'm.
Right.
And he comes up with like every rationalization.
He has a bunch of garbage rationalization.
Yeah.
Like if I'm at your door, you've already done something.
You did something to bring me there.
But if I had to say anything about the movie, it's that moment where stuff becomes incredibly real, where she catches him and runs off. I almost wish the movie would have spent more time in that space, but hiding a body with Jeremy Piven set to 99 Luftballons is probably the next best thing. I don't know if I can complain. And
again, not only is that sequence very funny and well put together, it does have like you have this great action sequence. It's a really good short fight sequence.
It's really good. Yeah.
It's a good fight sequence. Then you have everything stops dead, literally, and Minnie Driver, and she has this amazing section. And then as she's running away, Jeremy Piven comes up, and he like accepts the situation as it is, and is like, I'm helping you, I'm with you. And then the minute they're done with it, they go back to the bar, and he looks at him and he goes, "Hi, I'm so and so. Who are you?"
To which John Cusack doesn't even shake his hand, and then Jeremy Piven just leaves. Like,
yeah.
It's great. Like, if we had to trace, I wish we had more time to trace Piven's arc, because he is seemingly going nowhere, but then that happens, and it's kind of like everything's led to that in a way,
right?
And it's like I said, there's a lot more there than I think we can.
No,
yeah. But
there's a ton of that. The Hank Azaria character too, and that whole arc is really good, really fun, and really interesting. And we haven't really even talked about how good Dan Aykroyd is in his. I think it's my favorite movie of his. There is a back and forth between them in the restaurant where they're
also very good,
which is, it's just one of the funniest things. Like they're both holding guns at each other underneath the table. They both end up ordering really bizarre breakfasts. They talk
specific.
Yeah, they talk about
omelet without any, just egg whites or something. Technically, that's not an omelet.
It's like, I don't want to get into a pedantic argument about it. I just want the protein. Yeah, very good. And the conclusion to the movie, it's probably what you think it is, but it ends up being that
I don't know.
The hit.
Can it be?
The hit that initially brings Martin Blank to Detroit, to the Grosse Pointe area, is to kill Minnie Driver's father, who's going to testify against some big dudes. And in doing so, gets into the final confrontation where both he and Grosser kill the NSA agents together.
That's true.
They end up going back and forth, and our hero, Martin Blank, walks away, gets the girl, walks out, drives out of Detroit to the same song that brought us into the movie, which was The Violent Femmes.
Yeah. So if you picture a third act that has to be John Cusack gets the girl and kind of finally renounces his past life, or comes to terms with it, I guess, because he's got to do a lot of killing still, or shooting. Bit. Yeah. So if you can even fathom that, and if you could conceive of even that ending, It's better than that.
It's a good movie, man. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. It's
poignant.
Yeah.
It's not what you think it is still. Like, I guess I know this is stupid. Like, this is the first time I've seen it. Okay, everybody knows this already. It's Grosse Pointe Blank.
The last thing I want to bring up about Grosse Pointe Blank, we've mentioned it numerous times, is that this movie is, and Rayzilla, thank you again for this, the soundtrack to this movie is off the charts good.
Agree.
You've got.
I'm exasperated how good it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give you. This is just a couple of hits here. We got "Blistered in the Sun" by the Violent Femmes, "Live and Let Die" Guns N' Roses version. Also, there is a "Live and Let Die." The Paul McCartney version is actually, there's a little bit in there.
Was Rayzella correct? Did they use the wrong version?
Probably.
Okay.
The Clash is on here a bunch of times. Rudy Can't Fail. Also a bunch of specials. The Pixies, Motorhead, The Cure, the Eels.
Oh, The Cure, huh?
Uh-huh. Also.
Thank you for putting that in there. That must have hurt, actually.
Yeah,
I
not
appreciate
a fan. But I do like Aha. Susie and the Banshees, Pete Townsend. Like this is just a to me, an all-timer soundtrack, and I love it.
Not to undersell it too. Like, you put all these bands or songs on a CD, on a mixtape or something. Tapes are things that existed when this movie. Well, okay, there were still some out there when this movie came out. In the 80s, there was a ton more, but used to perfect effect still. Like, not just like, this is a great song, we could put anything into this and it would be great. No, still used very conscientiously and well, obviously. Like, it's really great.
It's really great.
Yeah, what, like 100 stars?
Yeah, out of 263.
Whoa, I would give it then 263 stars. Actually.
Okay, that's pretty big. Pretty big.
Man.
Good.
All
right, that's the book club. Thanks, Rayzilla, again for joining the book club. We'd love to have some more members, because next week we've got a new movie. We're
going contemporary. It's like it's not even that old.
It's a movie that's new to us. It's a movie that maybe it's new to you. Who knows? What movie are we watching next week?
I believe it's Murder on the Orient Express.
The Murder on the Orient Express.
And I guess the new one, we should say.
Yes,
there's probably an old one.
There is. This one stars Kenneth Branagh as...
Directed by him.
Hercule Poirot, the Mustache Man. So we're going to check out Murder on the Orient Express. So what you want to do is also check out the most recent version of Murder on the Orient Express. Then hit us up at Book Club 4 Movies on Twitter. You can email us, podcast@zerohitpoints.com.
Any way you want to do it, we'll bring it in.
Let us know what you thought of the movie. Let us know. We'll talk about it.
We will. It'll be fun. It'll be great. But until then, what if we do the rest of the show?
Let's do the rest of the show.
Did you watch anything else?
I did. I watched The Thing this week.
The Thing? Ooh.
No.
That's a good movie.
I watched A Thing, not The Thing.
Doesn't sound as good.
I did watch a movie that is very good.
As good as The Thing.
It's too different.
See? Okay.
Very good.
All right. What did you watch?
I watched Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, gosh. All right. Okay. Fair enough.
2 hours and 44 minutes of Roger Deakins' beautiful cinematography.
They couldn't make that thing 2 hours and 49 minutes.
You know?
It wasn't...
Right? Directed by Denis Villeneuve, who most popular, most known now for Sicario.
Right. Which they're doing a sequel to?
They are, and he's not involved. And that's immediately, I'm not interested. That's not true. It's not that I'm not interested. It's that this looks too much, it looks like they're going too action-y as opposed to what Sicario was, which I think was not an action movie.
Well, yeah, because you don't...
Anyways, we'll talk about that some other day. Blade Runner 2049, though, written by Hampton Fancher and Michael Green, starring Ryan Gosling, Robin Harris, Harrison Ford, Jared Leto, Ana de Armas, and Dave Bautista. You know, Dave Bautista.
Oh, Bautista's in it fairly prominently?
Bautista.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Not in it. Right? He's in it prominently in the first 15 minutes, and he plays... His entire character is the anchor for the movie. What he tells Ryan Gosling. And
so everybody else... the questions I'll ask Matt will probably spoil this thing, which we don't normally do on these maybe after movies, but
I will do my best to avoid spoilers on this.
And I will not. So
okay, then
fair
let's
enough.
not worry about it.
continue. Dave Bautista is the anchor, and does he turn in a performance? I saw him in this short before, which I don't think did a good job. I was very intrigued. It's a great short. I like him. I don't know if it showcased or made the case for me that he could carry or be the anchor in a movie as much as I like him as Drax the Destroyer.
So I think yes. I think he's great.
Okay.
He's not in the movie much. It's like maybe 10 minutes. And I say he's the anchor because he is the reason that Ryan Gosling ends up keeping the memory, like kind of keeping going with the story a little bit. So ultimately what we have here is Ryan Gosling right off the bat. This is not like the original Blade Runner where the question of whether Deckard is or is not a replicant is pervasive throughout the film. He is a replicant. Bam. It's known.
Okay.
No questions. Awesome. This is not for argument. He's a replicant.
Which, to be fair, I think it was Ridley Scott himself, right, that came out after the fact. And maybe when this 2049 was actually getting close to production, just straight up said, yeah, Ford was a replicant. Or
Scott has come out and said it before, and Ford has come out and said he's not,
or he doesn't care because he's Ford.
Yeah, I don't think he cares. So this movie kind of does answer that question to a point. If you can read the movie in two different ways, I think, where they don't expressly state that he was a replicant. They don't expressly state that he wasn't. So they still leave it a little bit in the air with Harrison Ford. But I think that the movie kind of leans more on the idea that he was. And the reason being, the entire kind of purpose for the movie is he and Rachel, who was played by Sean Young, who was a replicant for sure in the first Blade Runner, made love and she got pregnant and had a baby and died in childbirth. How can a replicant have a baby? And so the entire portion of the first part of the movie with Bautista is him not expressly saying that because they don't know this, but he references to Ryan Gosling because they're both replicants that, of course, you wouldn't understand any of this because you've never seen a miracle. So
dang, that's cool.
Dang,
that's cool.
So that's kind of the whole movie. And you have Robin Wright as she is like the police chief, quote unquote, she runs the replicants. So every time Gosling goes out, he has to come back and get reconfigured and check his baseline. And they do this. It's similar in kind of, it's almost like the Voight Kampf test for baselines, but it's different. Okay. And so we go back and those two kind of start having, they don't see eye to eye necessarily, but they don't not. But he doesn't have all the information that she clearly does. The bad guy in the movie is actually Jared Leto's character. But
in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, gotcha. In real life, Jared Leto's also the bad guy. But in this movie, he's the bad guy. And in here, he uses Ana de Armas's character as his kind of attack bot, where she is the one that's forcing Gosling to follow certain threads and figure out where Harrison Ford is. Because what they're ultimately after Deckard, because they know Deckard knows how did he impregnate a replicant? And then on top of that, where is the child? And so the whole movie kind of leads you down this path that maybe Ryan Gosling is the kid and maybe he's not. When you get the payoff, get the payoff on that too, it is so well done. And the only thing I can say about this movie is that it is a tremendous sequel that made everything about Blade Runner, the original, like it made it better. It's so good.
That's crazy because the first Blade Runner is kind of nuts and bolts at first. Like it's not, they've basically made a sequel about the first movie, like, and not what the first movie was about. Does this make any sense?
Kind of, yeah. It's
like to make the heart of the actual movie, like whether or not Deckard's a replicant. And he's, I guess what I'm saying is Gosling isn't on some other investigation that turns or goes deeper than he initially imagined. Like he's on the thing from the beginning.
Pretty much. Yeah. He's on the thing. It does go deeper than he imagined.
Sure.
Because he's being played into doing it. And Jared Leto's character is kind of trying to puppeteer this and find how, you know, how Deckard did what he did, and and where is Deckard. And then the movie also plays heavily with the memories that are, whether or not they're implanted, and whether or not a replicant is a replicant. How does a replicant know? Sometimes they don't.
So good, man. And that's good sci-fi.
And they do a really, really good job of it. And there is a sequence where JJ or not JJ, Gareth Edwards or whoever directed Rogue One,
right, maybe
should have called Denis Villeneuve's guys, because they do a rollback on Sean Young's face, and like,
oh, really?
Like, it's not her body. I remember seeing them they did the facial stuff, or like they did the 3D mapping and stuff, but I don't think it was her. I don't know if it was her body and they mapped over it, or if it was all CG. But
you never know with Sean Young, man. But she's a wild card.
But with this movie, like that CG she looked like Sean Young. It didn't look like that weird Governor Tarkin thing and that weird Leia thing. This was significantly better.
I would say maybe they did have her actually in there, because I feel like they've been getting better at the actual. I don't know what the process is, de-aging people. Like there was that scene in, was it Civil War with Tony Stark?
Right, when and they made him look like he was 22 or something.
Yeah, that came off. That looked pretty good too.
Pretty good.
Like, not flawless, but
I don't know that like I said, I don't know that it was her, because I also don't know that she looks that like when they filmed Blade Runner, Rachel, her body was it was very, very specifically like she clearly had like a corset on or something. She was tied in. Right. And I don't know that she could pull that specific look off to make it a 1-to-1. So I think it might have been CGI.
Wow.
But they
fat
did
shaming from Matt here. Jeez,
look, I'm not shaming. I'm saying people get older and change. Okay,
it's more fat admiration, actually, if you think about it.
Plus, I like Sean Young. I think she's great. The movie, though, it is terrific. Jared Leto, thankfully, is not in the movie a ton, and his bits are for the most part benign.
No, he's off doing one of those 3 Joker movies, I guess.
Yeah, so. Whatever.
Indeed.
Really, really, a really good movie, and yeah, this is oftentimes when somebody who probably deserved an Oscar for many, many years ends up with one, I feel like oftentimes it's not necessarily for their best work. I like Training Day. I think Training Day is a good flick. That is not the movie Denzel Washington should have won an Oscar for, in my opinion.
Sure.
This is a movie, though, where I think Roger Deakins has deserved an Oscar for years and years. And he, like, the landscapes and the way it's filmed and just all of it, it just freaking so good. It's so good.
True to trailer, then.
True
I didn't
to trailer.
See any trailer that I wasn't floored just alone.
And I guess the final thing I'll say about this is that runtime. It's almost 3 hours. It's 2 hours and 44 minutes, and it is a slow burn, but it is the best slow burn because it just always, for me, kept me into it. Like, I was invested in every detail of that movie.
That's great.
Blade Runner 2049.
Blade
Runner.
I've got maybe A to B on this one.
All right.
I watched The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, or the Keanu Reeves one or the original?
Your next question is, yes, the Keanu Reeves ones. But I watched both, okay? I don't know how to sneak it in that we're going to talk about both here. But we'll start with Keanu Reeves here.
Okay, we're starting with the Keanu Reeves one.
For about at least 30 minutes is really good sci-fi. It's actually also really well shot. Like, it looks beautiful. How long has it been since you've seen it?
The Keanu Reeves one, probably... When did it come out? What year?
2008.
2008. So probably 2009. Because I think I saw it like the year, like after it was on cable. I watched it. I
remember liking it fine.
Yeah, I don't remember disliking it. He was fine. I remember... Is it Jennifer Connelly?
Yes, it is. Do you remember the child? That's a Jaden Smith, sir.
Is it?
Yep.
Wow. One movie where he's not bad?
Well, we'll get there.
All right, good. Let's talk about it.
The first act is really strong. It looks really good. Like there's some of those moments where because he's taken some DNA and he needs to be reborn on Earth so that he can survive on Earth. Like good sci-fi again.
Yeah.
Well, okay, maybe not like Blade Runner, but good sci-fi. Either way, but basically it's Jaden Smith. And this is what we will talk about where the two differ. I think that's perfectly instructive of why the second one isn't great. Towards the end or after that first act. And there are still great moments. And Keanu Reeves, I mean, yeah, you make him an alien. That's what you do with Keanu Reeves, and he does it.
The dude is an alien.
He's good. He's good. He's good. But the first one, which still holds up, even the special effects, like it plays with kind of that B movie, and I think that's kind of part of the fun, is that it's not really like it has a theremin in there. You know, it has aliens.
What movie from the 50s and 60s didn't have a theremin?
Right? And yeah, 1951 is when it came out. So but it's not. Like from theme to direction to cinematography, it's not a B movie.
No. That movie was taken seriously when it was filmed.
And it should have been. But what they do, like kind of the trappings that they use, they do it amazingly. But one of the big differences is that in the original, the alien comes and is immediately shot like he is in the first one, because the first one, and to some extent the second one, is kind of about the Red Scare or this idea of escalation or, take your pick from that time period,
sure.
like violence and, what the ultimate end of that is and how that's born out of fear and dread and the unknown and stuff like that. But what happens is that after he's kind of nursed back to health and he integrates himself somewhat into the city, he goes out on the town with the kid. And the kid in the original movie is a kid. He shows him around and shows him what the world's like through a kid's eyes.
Right.
Comes to really, love the guy. For all this stuff, and they use it as teaching moments. They go and visit the spaceship, and there's a really fun indictment of the media at one point, even where the guy with the microphone's going around asking people what they think, and everybody has some version of violence or end of the world, and then they get to the actual alien, and he's like, well, actually, it's probably something. He starts to give a more nuanced response, and the guy just moves on, like, oh, that's great,
right.
That's how quaint. So it's really great at that. But then in the new one, the kid's already broken. I mean, not that that's always wrong, but in the original, when the kid teaches him about Earth, it's from the point of view of a child.
Right.
In the new one, the kid's already busted. Like Jaden Smith is already busted. He lives with his stepmom. He blames her for his dad dying or leaving or whatever it was. And he's the one that calls the cops on the alien when he finds out he's the alien, to bring them back to him.
Right.
So the kid's already broken. Like in the world of the new one, the kid's already an adult, and that's in the simplest terms, the world's already lost at that point. Honestly,
fair. Thankfully, good job, Jaden.
That's the easiest way I could put it. In the original, he's the savior in a lot of ways. Like the movie basically explains how as we've grown up and got trapped in this cycle of fear and dread, which is a lot of what the movie toys with that B movie stuff. There's a lot of the high contrast or the shadows, like harsh lighting or whatnot.
Yeah.
To kind of drive that home or make people think it's one thing when it's not. But when really the fear and dread is coming from, this idea of violence or having to shoot what we don't understand. But the kid doesn't have that yet. The kid sees the world as a kid sees it. The world isn't ruined yet. He's innocent. And he draws strength from that. Whereas the new one it's a movie about trying to convince the alien, John Cleese notwithstanding, trying to convince Keanu Reeves that humanity's worth saving. And I'm actually cool with the update. Do you remember the update that was actually it's a global warming basically is what it comes down to. Like the humanity is destroying the Earth, and there's not that many planets that can hold life. So if humanity doesn't stop doing this, we've got to get rid of humanity. Like I'm kind of into that update. Like that's still
I am too. I mean, I believe in it.
it's good.
We are the problem.
But what ends up then happening in the movie is that humanity just gets redeemed Like, but no, their viewpoint gets redeemed, I guess, basically is what happens. Like, they convince him, and they're like, no, humanity's worth saving for this reason. The reason not being that, we can change, or there's a ray of hope or something like that. It's just like, we're still kind of right somehow. You should save us for that reason. And the first one doesn't do that. The first one's like, you guys are wrong. You guys are idiots. You're going to blow this whole thing up, and you're going to bring violence to every other world in this solar system if you could,
It's true.
And it lands a lot better. There are some. Sorry, I'm just going. Don't just stop me anytime.
No, dude, go.
I have some issues with the politics at the end of the first one still, because when they start to lay everything out and he explains actually what's going on, which again isn't what that movie's about. That movie's about the trip there, but they have to explain it. I don't know. I feel like we get to this on every movie, but where they have to make the decision of, okay, do we spell it all out now, or
right.
But he spells out that they've created robots that basically force them to be peaceful. And I'm like, well, on the one hand, that's not like there needs to be freedom to fail type thing. Like there needs to be a 4chan in the universe somehow, but does there need to be like millennia of 4chan, I guess is what I'm thinking. Like, yeah, maybe the robots aren't a bad idea. So I'm not decided on that one way or the other. But
we should learn from our mistakes.
That is definitely the message. That's the takeaway there. Yeah, sure. But still, that original, man, like if you haven't, like, check it out. It to me, it doesn't have any of the problems that, especially going to film school, you kind of have to find a reason to get through some of those old movies. Like, oh, this was the first one that did this, or
sure,
this is important for this reason. Like that, none of that. That's just a good plain watch. Like,
not me, man. I love those movies. I love it.
Well,
give me that Day the Earth Stood Still. Give me any of that garbage from the 50s. Give me them. Love it. Night of the
even the B movie stuff. Yeah,
Night of the Lepus.
It's good. It's all good.
I love Night of the Lepus. Giant rabbits.
I'm into it.
Yeah, them was giant ants.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that one. I didn't believe it or not. These didn't come up a ton in film school, but
shockingly, I'm
should have.
Night of the Lepus is good, man. Night of the Lepus is stupid.
I love it. Now, everything you've said so far. We do a show on that next week. What are we watching? Murder on the Orient. Come on. Who's highbrow?
Night of the Lepus was funny because it was later on. It was like I want to say that was like early 70s, and it has the highlight of it though is that it has Janet Leigh in it.
Okay.
It's really weird.
Sure.
So, all right, I guess that's the rest of the show. We're gonna wrap it up here.
That's all.
Hey,
again.
Thanks for sticking around. bookclubformovies.com. Head on over there, take a listen to whatever podcast. You'll see 0 hit points. Why don't you just take a listen to that if you're interested in video games?
Good.
Next
Trust
week,
me.
the Book Club for Movies selection is the current or the most recent version of Murder on the Orient Express, the 2017 version.
Yeah.
Directed.
Like, you had to distinguis. Like there might have been a new one that's come out already since then.
I don't know. Directed,
just in case.
Directed,
the Kenneth Branagh one.
Directed and starring Kenneth Branagh. Great cast in that one. Check it out. Let us know what you thought about it on the Book Club for Movies Twitter account, or shoot us an email, or whatever you want to do. Let us know. We love it. Join the Book Club for Movies today.